Pushpin disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction and is written purely for emotional and creative expression. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or real-life events is purely coincidental. The content may include themes of grief, guilt, and emotional trauma that some readers may find sensitive. Reader discretion is advised. The story aims to explore human emotions and healing through narrative storytelling. It was a quiet Thursday evening when Emma heard the knock. The kind of knock that doesn't come from a stranger, 3 slow raps, deliberate and familiar. She hesitated, her book still open on her lap, the rain tapping gently against the window. Few people ever visited her unannounced these days. When she opened the door, her heart skipped. There he was, Liam. She hadn't seen him in nearly 7 years. The boy who used to race her down the hill on their bikes was now a man, taller, leaner, a shadow of someone who once lit up every room. His eyes, though, were the same stormy gray, but darker now. Tired. "Hey," he said, voice almost a whisper. "Liam?" Her voice cracked. "What are you doing here?" He gave a small, sad smile. "Can I come in?" "Just to talk." Emma hesitated. Her heart was pounding. Memories of their childhood and sudden silence years ago came rushing back. She stepped aside. "Of course." He walked in slowly, as though the house was sacred ground. And in a way, it was. This was the home where she had lived with her brother Noah, where laughter once echoed, where everything changed the day Noah died. Liam had been part of that world, until he vanished without a goodbye. They sat on opposite couches in the living room. The silence stretched. "You look different," Emma finally said. "So do you," he replied, but didn't elaborate. She offered him tea, perhaps out of habit or discomfort. As she busied herself in the kitchen, she kept glancing over her shoulder. He hadn't moved. Just sat there, shoulders hunched, eyes scanning the room like he was chasing ghosts. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed. A flicker of something, regret? Sadness, passed over his face. "I know this is strange," he began, "me showing up like this. But I've wanted to come for years. I just didn't know how." Emma sat down, watching him. "Why no?" He looked down into his cup. "Because I can't live with it anymore." Her breath caught. "With what?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, his gaze shifted to the mantel above the fireplace, where a framed picture of Noah stood, forever 17, smiling, frozen in time. Liam's eyes softened, then darkened. "I came to talk," he repeated, barely above a whisper. "But what I have to say, it's not easy." Emma's heartbeat grew louder in her ears. "Then say it," she said quietly. He met her eyes. "It's about Noah." And just like that, the warmth of the room turned cold. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The mention of Noah's name had changed the entire atmosphere, turning comfort into tension and silence into weight. Emma folded her hands in her lap, unsure whether to brace herself or walk away. But something in Liam's face, fragile, desperate, kept her rooted. He took a breath, looking around the room. "It hasn't changed much," he said softly. Emma followed his gaze. The same beige curtains their mother had picked. The photo wall, now mostly filled with memories of Noah. And the sofa where the 3 of them had once curled up during movie nights. "No," she replied. "Not much has." Liam gave a bitter chuckle. "Feels like walking back into a memory." She nodded slowly. Except the memory had more life in it. They both went quiet again. Emma broke the silence. "Remember that summer? The one before everything." Her voice trembled on the last words. Liam leaned back, eyes misting over. "Yeah, the one where we built that ridiculous treehouse." Emma smiled faintly. "That thing barely stood upright. You almost broke your arm jumping off the ladder. And Noah was the only one smart enough to bring snacks up there," she added with a weak laugh. For a fleeting moment, it felt like old times, like the pain was something they could talk around. But it didn't last. The silence that followed felt like a wall neither of them could climb. Liam leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "Emma, I've replayed that summer 1,000 times in my head. Every joke, every late-night conversation, every bike ride. It's all I had for a long time." She blinked, unsure how to respond. "You two were my family," he continued. more than anyone else ever was. When Noah died, I didn't just lose a friend. I lost everything that felt like home. Emma's throat tightened. Then why did you disappear? That question had haunted her for years. Liam's absence had been another loss she never had answers for. I couldn't face you, he admitted. I couldn't face what I knew. I was a coward. His voice cracked on the last word, and Emma's stomach twisted. She had spent so many nights blaming him, hating him for leaving. But now, hearing the tremor in his voice, she realized there might be more to the story than she ever let herself consider. He looked at her again. I came here tonight because I need to tell you what really happened that night. But before I do, I needed to remember who we were. Who Noah was. Because once I say it, nothing will ever be the same. Emma stared at him, her heart thudding painfully. Part of her wanted to run, to not hear what was coming. But the other part, the bigger part, needed the truth more than anything. Then tell me, she whispered. Tell me everything. Liam's hands trembled as he set down his tea. The cup made a small clink against the table, far too loud in the suffocating silence between them. Emma waited, her breath shallow, her eyes fixed on him. Her heart told her that whatever he was about to say would change everything she thought she knew. I've carried this for so long, he began, his voice low. I thought maybe if I stayed away, time would make it easier. But it didn't. Emma's fingers clenched around the hem of her sleeve. What happened, Liam? He didn't answer right away. Instead, his eyes traveled once more to the picture of Noah on the mantel. He stood up and walked slowly toward it, then stopped just inches away. Emma watched as he gently picked it up, brushing a bit of dust from the frame with his thumb. He was the best of us, Liam said quietly. Braver, kinder, smarter than we gave him credit for. Emma blinked back, a sudden sting in her eyes. That night, Liam continued, still facing the photo, we were supposed to meet at the cliffs. Just the two of us. Noah had been off lately, you noticed it, didn't you? She nodded. He was distant. Quiet. Like something was eating at him. Liam exhaled. I thought he just needed to talk. Or maybe fight it out. I never imagined. He turned around slowly, eyes wet now. We argued. About everything. About school. About how I was planning to leave town after graduation. About how he felt, abandoned. He was angry. So angry. And I wasn't much better. I said things I shouldn't have. Hurtful things. Emma felt like the floor beneath her was shifting. I walked away, he confessed. I turned my back and left him there, standing on the edge of the cliff. A long pause followed. When I heard the sirens later that night, when your mom called me crying, I knew. I just knew. Emma's vision blurred. You knew he was in pain. And you left him. I thought he just needed space, Liam choked out. I never thought he'd actually, he stopped, unable to finish the sentence. The silence that followed said everything he couldn't. Emma covered her mouth, tears sliding down her cheeks. All these years, she'd carried the weight of not knowing, of wondering if it was an accident, if it could have been prevented. And now the truth stood in front of her, raw and bleeding. You were the last one to see him, she whispered. You heard him. And you walked away. Liam fell to his knees, his head hanging. I've hated myself every single day since. I came here not for forgiveness, I don't deserve that. I needed you to know. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Emma looked at him, broken on her living room floor. For the first time, the mystery of that night had a voice. But it was a voice that shattered her. And still, a deeper silence settled between them. Emma didn't know how long she sat there, staring at Liam on the floor, folded in on himself, drowning in guilt. Her mind was spinning, screaming, trying to process what she'd just heard. Everything about that night, every unanswered question, every nightmare she'd buried was suddenly real. Clear. And far worse than she had imagined. You just left him, she whispered, voice trembling. Liam looked up slowly, his face pale, eyes filled with tears. Yes, I did. Emma stood, pushing back her chair with a harsh scrape against the floor. She couldn't sit. Couldn't breathe. He was my brother, she cried, her voice cracking. He was 17, Liam. He didn't need space. He needed someone to stop him. I know, Liam choked, standing to face her. I know, Emma. I was supposed to be that person. I thought I could reason with him, but I got angry and God, I was so selfish. She walked away from him, pacing to the window. Outside, the rain had started again, light, almost gentle. It felt like a cruel contrast to the storm raging inside her. Do you know what it was like? She said through clenched teeth. Waiting for him to come home? Watching my mother break every time the phone rang? We never even got a clear answer, just no foul play and a death certificate that didn't explain anything. I lived with it too, Liam said softly. No, she snapped, spinning around. You ran from it. You left this town, disappeared from our lives, and let us carry that pain alone. He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He just stood there, defeated. Emma wiped her eyes roughly. Why didn't you tell someone? The police, my family, me. I was afraid, Liam said. Afraid they'd blame me. That you'd hate me. I was 17 too, and everything felt so huge, so irreversible. I tried to convince myself he'd slipped. That maybe it wasn't my fault. But I knew. I knew what I'd done. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned away again, this time looking at the photo of Noah. The same photo that had sat on that shelf for years, unmoving, smiling, silent. He trusted you, she whispered. We both did. I failed him, Liam said, stepping closer but not too close. And I failed you. Emma closed her eyes, trying to hold herself together. You came here to ease your guilt. Is that it? You finally had enough nightmares and decided I should carry them too. No, he said. I came here because I couldn't keep pretending I didn't destroy something precious. I came here because you deserve the truth, even if it breaks you. Tears slipped freely down her cheeks. She didn't have a reply. In that moment, they stood surrounded by broken trust, memories, and the ghost of a boy who once laughed in this room. The night hadn't just changed Noah's fate, it had changed all of theirs. And now, 7 years later, its shadow still loomed large. The air between them felt unbearable, thick with grief, guilt, and everything unspoken for 7 long years. Liam sat back down slowly, his shoulders hunched as if the weight of his confession had physically crushed him. Emma remained standing, arms wrapped around herself, trembling from the cold that now lived in her chest. I didn't just lose Noah that night, Liam said after a long silence. I lost you too. I lost who I was. Emma didn't respond. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, but her mind was far away, trapped in memories. Noah's laugh. The sound of their bikes racing through summer streets. The last breakfast they shared. How he said, "See you later," and never came back. I've been carrying it, Liam continued, voice raw, this thing inside me. Like a stone in my chest. I tried therapy. I tried running. I even tried pretending it wasn't as bad as I remembered. But it always came back. Emma's hands clenched. You got to move on. We didn't. He shook his head. I didn't move on. I drifted. For years. I dropped out of college. Worked meaningless jobs. Lived in cities where no one knew me. I couldn't connect with anyone. I couldn't be close to anyone because I was terrified they'd see it, the guilt. The truth. He paused, staring into the fireplace that hadn't been lit in years. Every night, Emma. Every damn night I see him. Sometimes he's crying. Sometimes he's just staring at me. And sometimes he's falling. Emma's breath hitched. Liam swallowed hard. I don't want to be forgiven. I don't deserve it. I came here because I needed to look you in the eye and say it out loud. Not for peace. There's no peace for me. But because you had a right to know what happened. To stop wondering. Emma turned to face him, her eyes full of anger and sorrow. Do you know what it's like to look at someone's face every day and not know why they're gone? To think maybe it was something I missed, something I could have said or done. We blamed ourselves in this house for years. Liam's voice cracked. I blamed myself too. There was a long pause. A heaviness settled between them that no words could clear away. Emma finally sank into the armchair across from him. Her voice, when it came, was quieter now. Why did you wait so long? He didn't look at her. Because I was afraid the truth would destroy what little you had left of him. But the lies, they were worse. She nodded slowly, though her face was blank. Liam looked at her, truly looked at her. I miss him every day, Emma. And I know I don't deserve to miss him. But I do. I always will. The clock ticked on the wall. Rain continued tapping gently against the glass. He had finally let it out. The truth. The burden. But now it lived with her too. That night, long after Liam had gone, the house stood in silence, except for the storm that raged inside Emma. She lay curled on the edge of her bed, fully clothed, staring at the ceiling in the dark. Her pillow was damp, not just from tears, but from the weight pressing down on her chest. She had spent so long burying the pain of Noah's death in a tidy box of mystery and heartbreak. But now that box had burst open, and inside was something uglier than she had ever imagined. He hadn't slipped. He hadn't been alone by accident. Someone had been with him. Someone who walked away. Emma sat up abruptly, her hands clenched in the bedsheet. The rain outside had picked up, slashing against the window like an echo of the storm within her. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to turn back time and pull Noah back from that edge herself. She stood, pacing the room, each step as restless as the thoughts racing in her mind. Liam's voice echoed again and again. We argued. I said things I shouldn't have. I walked away. I failed him. Why hadn't Noah told her he was struggling? Why hadn't she noticed? Why hadn't anyone? She sat down at her desk and opened the drawer where Noah's old journals still sat, tucked away like relics. She flipped through the pages, desperate for answers. Some entries were silly, others filled with teenage dreams and lyrics. But buried in the later ones, she saw it, the cracks. Sometimes I feel like no one really sees me. Not even Liam. I don't know how to say I'm not okay. Emma pressed a hand to her mouth, stifling a sob. It had been there, all along. She just hadn't known how to read it. She leaned her forehead against the wood of the desk and whispered, I'm sorry, Noah. I'm so sorry. Hours passed. The storm outside faded, but inside her, it remained. By morning, the sky was gray but quiet. Emma sat by the window, sipping tea she couldn't taste, watching the world move on as hers stood still. She thought of Liam, of his face when he cried, of the boy he used to be, and the man guilt had turned him into. She hated what he'd done. But she also saw something in his eyes last night, a kind of brokenness that mirrored her own. He hadn't come to be forgiven. He had come to fall apart in front of her. And she wasn't sure what that meant for them now. For the first time in years, Emma realized her grief had a new shape. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was anger. Regret, clarity. But maybe, somewhere deep inside, it was also the beginning of healing. She looked out at the street where Liam had walked away hours ago, and she wondered if he'd ever come back. Emma didn't sleep that night or the next. The weight of Liam's confession had settled into her bones like winter chill, refusing to leave. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Noah standing on that cliff, alone, hurt, misunderstood. And somewhere in the shadows, Liam, angry, scared, walking away. It hurt in ways she hadn't thought possible. On the third morning, she found herself standing outside her favorite cafe, the same one the three of them used to walk to after school. She hadn't planned to come here. Her feet had simply carried her. And there he was. Liam sat alone at the far corner table, head bent, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee he hadn't touched. His eyes were fixed on the raindrops sliding down the window, lost in thought. When he looked up and saw her, surprise and something like dread flashed across his face. Emma walked over slowly. He stood up immediately, unsure what to say. I wasn't sure if I'd see you again, he said quietly. She nodded, sliding into the seat across from him. I wasn't sure either. Silence stretched between them like glass, fragile, ready to shatter. I've gone over everything 100 times since you left, she said, staring at her hands. I wanted to hate you. I think part of me still does. Liam's shoulders slumped. I understand. But I also realized, this isn't about whether I can hate you. It's about whether I can live with carrying that hatred. She looked up, her voice steady but soft. I don't want to live with more pain than I already do. He looked at her, eyes wide, hopeful, yet hesitant. Emma continued, I can't tell you I forgive you, not yet. Maybe not ever. But I also know that what you did took courage. Telling the truth doesn't erase what happened, but it matters. Liam's voice cracked. I never expected you to forgive me. I just needed to stop running. She studied him, really studied him. He looked thinner than she remembered, tired in a way that no sleep could fix. But he was also here, facing the wreckage he'd left behind. You said Noah felt invisible, she whispered. Like no one really saw him. Liam nodded. Maybe we both failed him. They both sat in silence. No one cried. No one raised their voice. The pain had settled into something quieter now, a wound still open, but no longer bleeding. I don't know what this means for us, Emma said honestly. But I think this is where it starts. Not forgetting, not erasing, just breathing again. Liam's eyes welled up. I never thought I deserved even that. Emma gave a faint smile. You don't. But maybe we both need to heal. For Noah. Outside, the rain began to slow. The world didn't look brighter, but it looked clearer. And in the stillness of that moment, something began to shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the choice to begin. A week later, Emma stood at the edge of the cliff, the very place where everything had changed. The sky above was a muted blue, scattered with thin clouds that drifted slowly. The wind tugged gently at her coat, and below, the sea crashed against the rocks with rhythmic, steady force. Time hadn't stopped here. Nature had moved on. But for Emma, this was a sacred place. A place where a goodbye had been whispered to the world and never returned. In her hands, she held a small folded note. She had written it the night before, every word etched with care, soaked with tears, then dried with resolve. It was addressed simply, for Noah. She knelt and placed it beneath the old tree where they used to sit as kids. The bark still bore faint initials carved in by three best friends who thought the world would always make sense. I know now, she whispered. I know you were hurting. I know you felt alone. She paused, eyes wet, voice breaking. And I'm sorry I didn't see it. I'm sorry none of us did. The note fluttered slightly in the breeze, but stayed. Emma rose slowly, brushing her fingers along the trunk before turning back toward the path. As she walked, her heart felt different. Still heavy, but not the same kind of heavy. She was carrying truth now, not just questions. Down the trail, Liam waited. He didn't approach her. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, watching her with quiet patience. When she reached him, they didn't say anything for a while. The silence between them was no longer sharp. It was gentle, like the stillness after a storm. I left something for him, Emma said. Liam nodded. I figured you would. They began walking side by side, back toward the town that held so many memories, both bright and dark. I still have days where I hate you, Emma said honestly. You should, Liam replied without hesitation. But I also remember the boy who stayed up with Noah all night when he had that panic attack, the one who gave me the bigger slice of cake even though you always wanted it. He gave a soft laugh. He's still in here somewhere. Just buried under a lot of mistakes. Emma looked at him, really looked at him. Then maybe, she said slowly, we try. Not to be who we were, but to be better than who we've been. Liam's eyes filled again, not with guilt this time, but with hope. Fragile, uncertain hope. I'd like that, he said. As they reached the edge of the woods, the town unfolded in front of them, ordinary, unchanged. But to Emma, everything felt different now. The pain would never fully leave. Neither would the memories. But in speaking the truth, in choosing to stay, Liam had cracked something open inside her. Not healing, not yet. But the beginning of it. And sometimes, that's enough.